Man, if you just like running weird cards that your opponents are like, this is a cEDH deck, when you play them, then this is a deck for you. How's it going, everybody? I'm Josh from Elder Dragon Highlander, and I'm coming to you with a deck tech video for the Catbox Kutzil cEDH Hermit Druid deck that I've really enjoyed playing these last few weeks. Not gonna lie, I've been following the food chain. I've been playing the cat a little bit more than I've been playing the bird. Sorry, Francisco. He's like sitting right here in the desk next to me, but I haven't been playing him as much as Kutzil, who is also sitting right here in the desk next to me. Anyway, this is a really fun deck that takes advantage of what I think is one of the best Selesnya commanders ever to be printed. It's a silence with upside. It's a draw spell with upside. It's a combination silence draw spell. They're together. They're friends. It's great. I love it so much. It's turned out to be so powerful, even though there's like conditions that you need to meet in order to draw. They're not as difficult to meet in these colors as I thought they would be. Turns out there's a lot of really good creatures that buff themselves that also do really good things, like Lion Sash and Scavenging Ooze, for example, which we'll look at later. But first, how do we win with this pile? We have two actual win conditions, and that's Walking Ballista and Heliod's Sun Crown, or Emil the Blessed Village Bellringers, making infinite mana into either a Walking Ballista or a Finale of Devastation. The way we get these win conditions is through our old pal, Hermit Druid. Now, not a lot of people play this card anymore. It's kind of high risk, high reward, but I really like it, and I still think it's really powerful. It's something that's just kind of fallen by the wayside in the current meta just because people be playing a lot of ways to mess with it. But you know what they can't do to mess with it when you have Kutzil out? Cast spells. So Hermit Druid just basically allows us to put our entire combo into play, because we're not running any basic lands in this deck. It's greedy AF. We just put our entire deck into the graveyard, and then use either Turn the Earth, which allows us to shuffle up to 3 cards from our graveyard into our library, or Sevinne's Reclamation, which allows us to put 2 cards that cost 3 mana or less from our graveyard into play, well, to get our stuff into play. The other really cool thing about Kutzil is because he allows us to draw cards, we can use Turn the Earth, which is right here. It says shuffle up to 3 cards into our deck. We can draw one of them for turn if we use it at end step, but let's say we know our opponents have interaction and we want to do this all during our turn. We can do this during our main phase, even after untapping, because we can draw the cards using Kutzil. So if you have 3 cards that you need to put into play because you're tight on mana and you need to put your Cradle into play as your land for turn, and then you need to also put your Heliod Ballista combo down, then what you can do is you can draw a card for turn, which is one of the Turn the Earth cards. It doesn't matter what order you get them in, so they're random anyway. And then attack with Kutzil, draw 2 more cards, and then get the rest of the combo, and win in your post-combat main phase. The other nice thing about this is that means you can also just get a ton of mana sources if you're short on mana. So you can put like Lotus Petal for white, and then Cradle and Crypt into your deck, and then draw them all with Kutzil and Turn the Earth, and then go positive on mana for your combo too. So there's a lot of cheese that you can do with this. Just Sevinne's Reclamation, the rest of the combo into play, and win that way. So the lines are pretty simple with Turn the Earth. You just put the combo into your deck and draw it. With Sevinne's, they're a little bit different. So for Sevinne's Reclamation, it says you can put 2 cards that cost 3 mana or less from your graveyard into play. They're permanents, right? So they can't just be a tutor to get something back from the graveyard, and they can't be, well, Emil. But they can be Heliod, and they can be Walking Ballista. The problem with Walking Ballista, though, is it just instantly dies. So if you don't have an Anthem, which I don't think we have any of anymore. I used to be on Anthems, but they're bad, so I cut them all. Anyway, without an Anthem, you can't put the Ballista into play. But you can put Eternal Witness into play, and then cast that sucker for 4 mana. It's a little mana intensive. It's like 11 mana for the whole combo, but hey, if you have a Cradle, that's nothing. The better line, though, if you have the setup, is Emil. So you can't get Emil back with Sevinne's Reclamation, but you can get Village Bellringer back, which gets you a lot of your mana refunded, which is sweet. And the other thing that you can get back is Loyal Retainers. So Loyal Retainers say that you can sacrifice them to return a legendary creature from the graveyard to the battlefield, and you have to do it before you attack. So if you're going for this line, you can't do the Kutzil draw your cards thing, which is an unfortunate little asterisk, but you know, it's fine. Honestly, this deck is full of a bunch of those little asterisks, which makes it very fun to play. It's like a puzzle winning every time, but like the line is always there. This deck goes. So you sacrifice those retainers, put Emil into play, and then start blinking the Bellringer and making a ton of mana. Win by then casting your Dryad's Revival from the graveyard, and then using that to get your Finale of Devastation or your Ballista to hand, or an Eternal Witness if you want to be fancy and get your entire deck back, and then win from there. Now, I've talked a lot about Gaia's Cradle. We do have a crop rotation / Elvish Reclaimer package to get that puppy into play, but we do have another land that's equally, if not more important to our strategy. That's my old friend Emergent Zone. This is one of my favorite cards in the whole game because nothing satisfies me, and I'm sure nothing satisfies many people more, than winning in response to someone doing something you don't like. Gonna kill my commander? No, heck you. Sacrifice Emergent Zone. I win. It's just so satisfying to me. It's so fun. I love doing it. But besides the happy factor of playing it in your deck, it's actually really, really good, especially with Hermit Druid, because one of the super simple plays with this guy is sacrificing Emergent Zone, maybe even off of a crop rotation immediately, casting a tutor or just casting your Hermit Druid, and then slamming that ability in your turn in your main phase when your opponents are blocked by Kutzil. The other really neat thing about this thing is if the Hermit Druid is already on your battlefield and able to tap, you can use Emergent Zone after activating Hermit Druid to then flashback Savine's Reclamation and do the entire combo at instant speed in response to your opponents doing something that you don't like. Which, kind of defeats the purpose of Kutzil as a commander, but you could really, really throw people off that way. Play some mind games. Oh my god, he's got a Kutzil, but he's also got an Emergent Zone. He could win anytime. What do I do? That's kind of fun. You could take advantage of that fear. We don't have many other lands. We have a lot of cute ways to buff creatures like Okina or Pendlehaven. Creature package, though, I would not say is standard for Green White. And the reason I say that is because we don't actually have a ton of Stax pieces. Normally decks like this, or in these colors that are heavy on creatures, have a lot of creatures that are Stax pieces, but we went not that direction with the deck, and I decided to put in a lot of asymmetrical stacks like Linvala here, but mostly things that were asymmetrical stacks that like buffed our creatures, or I like the flying asymmetrical stacks because if we buff them, they can hit with Kutzil. So I have like Linvala, I have Aven Mind Sensor, if I can get to it, where is it? Whoop, there it is. I have Aven Mind Sensor, but there aren't that many besides that are just stacks pieces, besides staples like Dranith Magistrate and Manglehorn. What we do have, though, is a lot of creatures that buff themselves so that Kutzil can draw us a card that are great stacks pieces. So Shinewend is one of them. We also have Scavenging Ooze and Lion Sash as well. And then our last category of creatures are creatures that buff other things. This card is something that I really just, my instinct is just to, but I put it on here because I thought it'd be kind of sweet, and it actually is really, really sweet in testing. It does well for the deck. While I'm on the topic of Luminarch Aspirant, I would like to talk about Agatha's Soul Cauldron, which is quickly becoming one of my new favorite cards. With all the +1/+1 counters that we're slinging around with this deck, Agatha's Soul Cauldron means that we can do a lot of crazy things with our activated abilities on our creatures. Someone kills our Hermit Druid? Nah, Soul Cauldron, all of our creatures are a Hermit Druid. It's really, really, really hype. Also, just the amount of creatures that we put in our graveyard, things that we can do with them, it's sweet. We can put a Heliod in the graveyard and Soul Cauldron our Heliod. We can put a Ballista in the graveyard and Soul Cauldron our Ballista. All of our creatures can become Heliods and Ballistas at the same time. It's a sweet card. You need to be careful putting things in the Soul Cauldron, though, because if someone bounces that sucker, your stuff's gone forever, and the Cauldron won't remember that it's in there. It doesn't put counters on them or any distinctions. So those creatures are gone. So even though it's cute to put Heliod and Ballista in there, I wouldn't do that unless you're sure you can also win some other way. I also have this card because it's cute and also good. Creature removal, kind of scarce. We have like Swords and Path and Winds of Abandon, and that's really it. I don't want to be running other stuff like that. So especially, I only want to be running asymmetrical stuff in this deck because this is not a stacks deck. This is a mid-range / kind of fast-ish deck. So I don't want to be running things that don't help us win. I don't want to be running things that slow us down in any way. Another notable card in this deck that I really want to talk about is Rishkar, Pima Renegade. Man, if you just like running weird cards that your opponents are like, this is a cEDH deck when you play them, then this is a deck for you. This is definitely a deck that you could play. Rishkar is sweet AF in this deck. All right, he buffs 2 creatures. He turns 2 things into dorks. He turns other things that we put counters on also into dorks, which super enables the Emil stuff. He's just sweet. If you're turn the Earthing and putting part of your combo into your hand, you can Savine's Rishkar out, which means with the Bellringer that you'll also immediately refund 2 mana, but also you're going to have more creatures to then draw cards with the +1/+1 counters for the other cards you put into your deck with Turn the Earth, which is hot. And then on top of that, you have 2 mana dorks. You're +2 mana for the Emil combo, so you only need 2 other mana from another source, like a Cradle with an Untapper, or a Faber or Elder, or just 2 Llanowar Elves, or something like that. And you're good. You're golden. You're infinite on mana. Yeah, this card is hot. This card's sweet. In this deck especially, and I guess in standard in like what, 2015? Hot. That's more or less the deck. You're trying to get the entire combo into play off of a single Hermit Druid activation, or just tutor that sucker up naturally, cast it, and win. Once you have a critical mass of mana, either through other sources or just dorks, which is preferable, you can go for it, and there's tons of ways to go for it in this deck because it's packed with tutors, and your commander draws you cards. So fairly simple floor and what you need to do to play, but once you actually start playing it, you'll find that it's a really challenging puzzle of a deck because of all the options for ways to win with Hermit Druid and with all the various lines. It's really fun to find the most efficient one for you and to go for it. And if there's like stacked pieces to play around, because you have so many options, you usually can find a line to play around them, and it's sweet. I've been punting games with this deck afterwards. I like end the game like, oh, good. I actually did have a line. I could have, and I just didn't think of it. And it's just how the deck is because there's so many things that it can do. And it's really, really cool and really, really fun and really, really exciting. So if you enjoyed me talking about it, maybe give it a try, give it a play. Play it up in the Moxfield playtester in your next playtest session if you're playing online, or proxy up and beat your friends to death with it. If you want to talk to us about decks that you're brewing, you can check us out on our Discord. It's linked in the video description. We also have a Patreon that you can sign up if you want to support the channel. You can get your name in the videos. You can get advice on deck techs. You can get access to unlisted things that we put on our YouTube channel, and lots more perks like talking with us in Discord channels and other things like that. So if you are interested in supporting the channel, that's something super, super important. Speaking of supporting the channel, I want to shout out our sponsor, Original Print Proxies. They make these really, really, really nice, easy to see over webcam proxy cards. If you play on webcam a lot, or if you just need some tokens, these are really, really, really sweet. I would definitely check them out. They're easy to see over a webcam. Like, look at that one ring, super easy to see. I know my video is reversed, but you can use your imagination. We're Magic players. We don't read things anyway. Look, the art is pretty too. But a link to those guys are in our description as well. Check them out. I really love these tokens. I'm using these for the rest of my life. They're freaking great. We also have other social media that you can follow. If you want to check that stuff out, the link is in the video description. Thank you all so much for watching, and stay janky, my friends. I'll see you next time.